Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Seaton and Coffee. It's Friday. Finally, it's Friday. Bit of a crazy day I had yesterday. Power went out halfway through work for me, so that was fun. Did the show, logged into work, and then boom, that was it. And it didn't come back on until like 6 o'clock in the evening or some shit. So it's kind of crazy. But yeah. Everybody has some fun plans for the weekend, or some kind of plan for the weekend at least. Yeah. So we went out to eat yesterday because there's no power in the house, obviously. And yeah, got home probably about 6, and the power was back on. So rock on. Oh, Friday. The Friday read. And as you guys can see, today's topic is actually a topic I've been wanting to get into for a while. It is another one of those topics where I feel like people have like half-based knowledge on it, right? Just kind of like hearsay of what they think something is from like videos and stuff like that. So I figured, all right, let's do a full-fledged video on it, yeah? They'd be working on the weekend. I am so sorry. Nobody should ever work on the weekend. I mean, having your days off in the middle of the week, I feel like it's a tease, right? Like you get rest, but like nobody else is getting rest, so you can't do anything with anyone. Ooh. All right. We're going to be looking at that energy for today, guys. What does today bring us? Yeah. Ooh. All right. So, our first card for today, the Blooming Decay. So, as we kind of look into, Blooming Decay here, right? What we can kind of get off, like the vibe here. Oh, yeah. This is the Midnight Oracle. The artwork on this is just exceptional, right? Like, I mean, that's the whole reason I bought it. So, Blooming Decay. So with this one, with Blooming Decay, what we have to understand with Blooming Decay is beauty can arise from endings. It's almost like, I would say that Blooming Decay is, if you want to think of it in terms of tarot, is very similar to the Death card. Like, so it's the end and beginning of a cycle. Right? So it's just embrace the cycle of life and find growth in what you thought you were losing, right? So this kind of fits into like Wednesday's read, if we're talking about like Wednesday and what was going on then with, kind of like that energy. This is understanding that there are cycles, there are beginnings, and there are endings. And though the ending may be uncomfortable, it's important that we embrace that ending, right? That we allow ourselves to be fully present for whatever it is that we're feeling, during that ending. So this is talking about life cycles. But I feel like with this read, we could be talking about a job, we could be talking about a friendship, things like that. Anything that has like beginning and end, like a definable beginning and end, that could be, emotionally heavy. And so we need to be able to embrace those cycles, right? We need to be able to, look at those cycles and kind of understand that there's something to learn there. There's beauty in it. There's beauty in that pain, right? And the cosmic flow, which I think follows perfectly with the blooming decay, because this is understand you're connected to something greater. I think this fits perfectly for today's, theme as well, today's topic. It's never forget that you are always connected to something greater than yourself, right? There is a flow. There is something happening behind the scenes always, right? Understand that there is something greater than you and that you are connected to it, whatever you call it, but it is connected to you, right? Very important, lesson there. And the last card, the Guardian Flame. Be true to yourself. No matter how afraid you are of something ending, no matter how afraid you are of the judgment of others, the opinions of others, the ideas of others, the acceptance or validation of others, you must always understand that you have to protect yourself, right? Don't worry about the world around you. When something ends, something else begins, right? We know this is I fully believe that this is the full concept of like why people believe in heaven, a lot of people, because, it's hard for the human brain to grasp the concept or the idea that, when you die, that's it, right? And is it? I mean, kind of, but not, right? At least in my opinion, right? Now we're going to cross it with the shadow work deck, okay? So this is going to tell us more specifically, what is it that we have to work on to maybe have a better understanding of these concepts that we're dealing with here, right? Remember, blooming decay is embracing life cycles. That's an oversimplification, but that's essentially what we're looking at. Embracing life cycles, beginnings and ends, right? The cosmic flow, always remember you're connected to something greater, right? Always remember that there's something bigger that you are connected to and that's working through you and you are working through it. And the Guardian Flame is, no matter how hard some of these situations, these life cycles are, always protect yourself. Always keep yourself at the top of the list. Because if you're not okay, no one around you is going to be okay. Right? Exactly, Grim. Exactly, 100%. Scientifically proven. Last one. All right. So we have an interesting layout here for the Shadow Work Tarot, everybody. For the Shadow Work, just the Shadow Work Oracle. Not everyone will understand isolation, authenticity, self-trust, right? I mean, that fits perfectly with the blooming decay life cycles. Not everyone's going to understand what you're doing. Not everyone's going to get it, right? Sometimes it's going to feel isolating, right? Whatever it is that you got, whatever it is you're working on, you know, yeah, you're going to feel isolated because you know what? Most people are going to try to shoot your shit down. Most people are going to tell you it's a bad idea, right? Most people are going to tell you that's not going to work. But authenticity, right? Be authentic, be yourself, and trust yourself. If you feel like something needs to end, fucking end it. Don't be afraid to end it. I think that's a trap that we fall into, right? We kind of talked about this, you know, on Wednesday when we talked about kind of like personal pantheon. You know, everybody can be wrong. Everybody can be wrong, but you got to trust yourself, right? Right? The people that are telling you that you're wrong, they could be wrong. But you never know if you're going to be, if you're right, if you don't follow through with it. Yeah, just one of those things. But that's kind of like, you know, that's kind of like one of those comments, like understanding that like your own ability to be wrong. If you're wrong, then you accept the fact that you're wrong. Oops, I made a mistake. And then you learn from that, right? But, you know, you don't stop moving. You don't stop doing what you're doing because you think, well, I might be wrong. So, you know what? I'm just not going to take the chance at all. I'm going to play completely safe and just stay stationary, which is funny because the next card is escape from stillness, distraction, inner turmoil, and avoidance. Right? So the comment of, you know, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong about what I'm trying to do here, what I want to do. I could be wrong. Maybe this isn't a good idea. You're avoiding, you know, as a wise man once said, hold my beer and watch this. Right? The worst thing that could happen is landing a critical fail or a faceplant. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, guess what? You get up, you try again. Well, I mean, unless, of course, you're skydiving without a parachute, and then maybe not. But there have been people that have. Or rather, their shit didn't work, and they still got back up. I saw one case, I don't know how long ago it was, but some dude, his parachute failed. He landed on the ground and the motherfucker got back up. Like, I mean, he had internal injuries and shit, but he still stood up after hitting the ground without a parachute. So, like, shit was crazy. So yeah, distraction. We like to get distracted. We like to get distracted with the feelings of being less, right? Of being, you know, oh, yeah, right? Just jumped out, parkour, right? He just jumped, you know, and she just jumped. Distractions. We like to distract ourselves. And the reason we like to distract ourselves is because sometimes reality can be painful, right? And we do, as human beings, deal with a lot of decision-making inside of ourselves that is painful, right? We do have those doubts. There was, well, maybe I could be wrong. I could be wrong about this. You know, maybe this isn't a good idea, right? We have to question. It's in our nature, right? We are naturally inquisitive creatures, right? We ask questions. We have doubts. We need proof. Right? We're built that way. And having internal questions and having doubts is normal. Avoidance is the problem. When you try to avoid and distract, right? That's the issue. And the point is to escape from being stationary. Being stationary is death. We get addicted to distractions. Just we do. Because it increases dopamine. It increases dopamine because it allows us to escape right? From reality. Video games, TV shows, movies, drugs, alcohol, you know, any number of things, you know, that, you know, you can be addicted to anything. And it allows us to escape, you know, the reality of, you know, what we're missing, the points in our lives that the things in our lives that we don't want to pay attention to. And the idea here, the only thing that we should be trying to escape is from being stationary. Addicted to being addicted. Ooh. Yeah, that's good. So many distractions. Yes. So, and then the last card here, I think, rounds everything off. It might seem a little off at first, but I think it rounds it off perfectly. And it falls on top of the kind of protecting your peace kind of thing, protecting your, you know, what it is that you're building. But it's envy, right? Lack, comparison, and resentment. And I think that this is, when it comes to life cycles, when it comes to being stationary, when it comes to having something that not everyone will understand, it is very easy to, you know, look at and be envious of others that you perceive to have more than you, right? To feel like you lack through the comparison. And then you become resentful of others, right? Because you feel like you don't have what the other person has. Like, so I'll give you an example. Like, I would love, I'm not even bullshitting here, I would love to be the Joe Rogan of like the occult community. Like, and yes, I like Joe Rogan. I know a lot of people don't like, but I like his podcasts. I think they're chill. I think they're fun to watch. You know, they have that good, like, you know, conversation dynamic, which is what I love about, you know, podcasts, right? It doesn't feel like, you know, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel manufactured. You know what I mean? The conversations that he has, it doesn't feel like a back and forth interview, like for a magazine or some shit. Like, you know, I think it's how a fucking podcast should be. So yeah, I would love to be the Joe Rogan of fucking, you know, the occult community. And I could sit here and I could look at Joe Rogan and the millions of fucking followers that he has and my measly almost 2,000 and be like, well, fuck, you know, like I don't have that, you know, and then start comparing myself to Joe Rogan. Fuck it, Joe Rogan's not doing an occult podcast, right? Joe Rogan's shit is not as niche as mine is, right? So comparison is the killer of motivation, right? And so stop comparing yourself to other people, because I'm sure that there's somebody out there that looks at my podcast, sees that I have almost 2,000 followers and they have maybe 200, you know, and is doing the same thing with me that I could be doing with Joe Rogan. You might lack in something, but if you're only focusing on what you're lacking, you're not being grateful for what you have. So here's the thing. Do I want to have 200,000 subscribers and, you know, 100 people in the chat? Fuck yeah, I do. Right? But I'm still grateful for every single person. You know, every single person that takes time out of their day to sit here and listen to my goofy ass, right? I'm fucking grateful for it. Like true fucking gratitude. Does that mean that I'm happy with it and I'm gonna stick with it and I don't want more? No, of course I want fucking more. It's okay to want more. It's okay to know what you lack in the sense of knowing what you want to achieve, but be grateful for what you have. Otherwise, nothing will ever be enough. And never focus wholly on what it is that you don't have, right? Don't let that be the driving focus, because if you only focus on what you have or what you lack, you will never appreciate what you do have. And nobody wants to work with an ungrateful bastard. So that is the daily read. I hope you guys got something good out of that for your day. Hope you guys can move forward on this Friday and you know, get something good out of it. Grateful. Yeah. I mean, it's like that kid. This is like, I'm grateful for the pain. I'm grateful for the rain, right? You know, exactly. Appreciate what you have, 100%, right? And then keep pushing for more. Don't give up. Just keep going. That's it. All right. Oh, also, guys, hey, here's a thing. Here's a really exciting thing. So the book is finally fucking published. So let me pull up a link here for it. And throw it in the chat for you guys. Only took a whole fucking month, about 5 years and a month. You know. Hold on a second. My typing isn't working, but oh, eh. There it is. There it is. So it is available in paperback and Kindle. You know, so forward by Curtis Joseph. Apparently, it won't let me put it in the chat because it's 160. It's a really long fucking link for some reason. I don't know why the link is that long, but we'll try this. We'll try this right here, and we'll get rid of the rest of that. Oh, something happened. Somebody's message was retracted. My goodness. All right. Anyway. That may or may not work. I don't know. Right? Maybe. Oh, maybe. Did you get it? Did you get it? Yeah, go site. Yes, Maeve got it. Maeve, you're awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so there's the book. You got the Kindle edition, you got the paperback. Enjoy it. As the Canadian Amazon link. Okay, yeah, I tried to put it on multiple platforms, but I don't know how many platforms it's actually on. So, but yeah, there it is. Be critical, but be constructive. It is my first book. And I might be a self-published author, but I am still now officially a published author. So yay. I guess that's a flex, isn't it? So anyway, getting into today's topic. The anatomy of a pact, right? Oh, damn. Thanks, Maeve. Appreciate it. So the anatomy of a pact. And I've already got the idea for the next book I'm going to do. Gage did it and does great. Awesome. That's cool. So, well, the thing was, it's like, I don't know. I felt like I had some communication with some publishers and they liked the concept and idea, but they wanted things that I didn't feel made sense to do. Right? There were things that they wanted as far as like length and stuff like that, that I just didn't feel was something I could do. Right? And still be true to myself. Because the books I want to make, I don't want to make, 300-400 page books. Like I want to make books that focus on a subject, get to the fucking point of what the hell it is that I want to talk about. And like, so I want them to be almost like field guides for people, I guess. Like think about them that way, right? The books that I want to make, I want to do like field guides, right? That are like extended essays, right? That you can go in and you can grab this book and you can very easily find what it is that you need to find and actually make them practically useful to you, right? Those are the types of books that I want to make, right? So yeah, that's what this book is. So anyway, the anatomy of a pact Something that you hear a lot of people talking about pacts, like I did this pact and I did that pact and, all of this fun stuff, right? Now, to get into this subject, the first thing we need to do is we need to define what a pact is and what it is not, okay? So the core definition is a pact is a negotiated agreement with mutual obligations, a time horizon, and terms you can actually measure, right? Say what now? That was random. I mean, who isn't a fan of Tupac? I mean, who shouldn't? I mean, at least a few songs, right? So that's a pact, right? So a pact is a negotiated agreement with mutual obligations. That's the simple part, right? And then there's a time horizon and terms you can actually measure. You can measure the terms inside of a pact. A dedication is alignment, devotion, and identity level commitment. A petition is a request. A working is an operation. A relationship is ongoing contact without hard contractual terms, right? So, historical context. So what pact meant in the Western record, right? So in early modern Europe, right, demon pacts show up heavily in witchcraft theory, inquisitional language, and trial narratives, often framed as apostasy and contractual surrender, right? So the record is biased, but it's still a record of how the culture conceptualized compact and obligation, right? So grimoires often focus more on conjuration, constraint, and permissions than pacts. But later compilations and related texts explicitly use pact language, okay? So a dedication changes who you are. A pact changes what you owe and what you can demand. Let me repeat that one more time for you guys. So a dedication changes who you are, right? So 2 packs. Okay, that went over my head, man. Like, okay. Yeah, but if you would probably put like 2, like the number 2 instead of TU, like I might have gotten that. But yeah, like that just went over my head. Now it's not so random. That's a good one. All right. So how does a dedication change who you are, right? So a dedication is you showing reverence to an entity. So it's more of a personal working, right? Like you want to show reverence. You want to have, something look at you and, like you want to be noticed almost, right? And I feel like that can change, who you are and how you deal with things. And a pact changes what you owe, right? So when you make a pact, you owe something, right? And something is owed to you so long as you put forth what you owe, right? So you owe something and you can demand more, okay? So why do pacts matter? And why do people get burned in them, right? So first and foremost, they matter because a pact creates clarity, right? Terms, boundaries, expectations, right? They create pressure. You stop dabbling and start becoming accountable, right? They create continuity. Long-term transformation beats one-off miracles. And so here's the thing. So how does it, what do you mean? What do I mean by it? You stop dabbling, you start becoming accountable. So here's the thing, like as a theistic believer, right? If I make a pact with an entity and I don't hold up my end, it is most definitely, it's only an inevitable time of when it turns into a situation of fuck around and find out. Right? So as a theistic believer, like, I believe that these things are living, breathing intelligences. Like, I do not believe, I believe in the archetypal idea of them. I believe that there is an archetype to them that we can integrate psychologically. But beyond that, I do believe that the things that we are working with are living, breathing intelligences. I don't believe that they are just ideas in our fucking brain. And so when you make a pact, your pact is fuck around and find out. Right? When you make a pact, you need to make sure that you are in a position that you can hold up your end of the bargain. And it is a promise. I think that's the most important thing. I think the best way to put it here is to say that a pact is a promise. Yeah, fuck around and find out is a real thing. And so the way my position is on promises, I don't use the word promise, right? Unless I know for certain that I'm going to be able to uphold what it is that I want to uphold, that I'm going to be able to do what it is that I want to do, right? So when you make a pact, you're making a promise. When you make a promise, you need to keep your promise. Never make a promise you can't keep. Never. Okay. So people get burned in pacts, especially with the demonic, with, you know, demonic entities. When you use vague terms, like, so something like make me more powerful, right? There's no timeline. There's no proof standard, right? Promising offerings or services they can't sustain, right? So if you start making promises or, you know, for offerings and, you know, sacrifices that you can't sustain, right? You are going to get burned because you're saying you're going to do something and then you can't do it, right? If you treat a pact like, you know, a hostage negotiation, right? Or like a fan letter, which I've seen people do this, right? When you take no action, you're like, oh yeah, I went into a pact with Lucifer, and you know, then for like, you know, like I'm supposed to be doing rituals with him like 3 times a week, and, you know, giving him doves. I don't know, right? You know, and then they don't do anything, right? I was like, well, no, like I realized I can't do that, and I'm like, you kind of like give me like, well, dude, I mean, you said you would, and you know, it's a soul contract, right? Exactly. You know, it's a soul contract. It's a soul contract. Right? Exactly. I promise you a chicken every month, but, you know, I have no chickens and I live in the middle of the city. So, you know, and trust me, like in that type of shit, chicken breasts don't work. So you know, it's one of those things that, like, you need to make sure that each aspect of what you're doing, like what Mothra says, like, I believe it's like what you said, you need to be locked in. Like, you need to make sure that you're locked in with something realistic, right? You know, I was going to go into a pact with Payman. Was going to go into a pact with Payman. And simple request from Payman for the pact to begin was a weekly offering of marigold. I very quickly realized I didn't say yes. I didn't say yes to the pact. I said I need to figure out where I can get marigold. And to my surprise, it is a very difficult thing to get a hold of in Mexico. Like, it is a very difficult herb to get a hold of in Mexico. Like, I can't fucking find marigold for the goddamn life of me. And I'm very glad that I didn't go into that pact. And, you know, it's one of those things that you need to make sure. Marigold is it is an herb that is associated with, or I guess you could say, a correspondence of payment, right? So it's kind of like a flower, kind of, and it's, you know, it's hard to get a hold of. It's really fucking hard to get a hold of, you know. And I didn't realize it was hard to get a hold of. Like, I never thought of fucking, you know. Rock on, rock on. I mean, it's the whole concept of your name, like satanic hymns, like I just love the sound of that. That's just like, there's something about a hymn that's just, I really like, you know. And make no mistake about it, I have every intention of checking out your channel here in a second, because I'm really hoping there's music on it. Really hoping there's music on it. So, so yeah. Anyway, so that is where people kind of get burned with things, right? So, and then I think another one is confusing emotional intensity with spiritual authority. I think that that's another thing, is like when people feel spiritually like they feel like a lot of like emotional intensity in something, they feel emotionally grasped by something, you know. They kind of assume that that means they have some type of spiritual authority. And the demonic will knock you down a few pegs, right? If you start acting authoritarian, right? Inside of a pact. A pact needs to have mutual levering, right? You're not bargaining with a symbol. You're dealing with an intelligence that can say no, renegotiate, or test you. That's the thing. And I feel like the thing with payment, I feel like the pact that I wanted to get into in payment was a test. Like, I feel that payment in that ritual understood that was going to be something that was going to be very hard for me to get a hold of, and wanted to say, if I was just going to on a dime just drop, yeah, sure, it's not a problem, I should be able to get that really easy, and then find out later that I can't. And so I feel like inside of that test, I feel like I passed it, right? Because it showed honesty. It showed authenticity. It's like, you know, I know that this exists. I know it's something that's used in this, but I've never seen it in any esoteric shop here. So, you know, let me see if I can actually get my hands on this shit. And come to find out, it's not easy to get a hold of, right? So that's another thing that's very important to understand when you go into a pact, right? It's not of like people. I've seen so many people online treat and talk about pacts like there's very simple, very easy, you know, exchange back and forth, right? And they're not, because you are talking about an intelligence that can, I don't want to say change their mind, but can fuck with you if they want to, right? Like I feel like the demonic are, like, some of them are like natural pranksters, right? And I know that's a stupid way of putting it. It makes it sound very childish, but I'm just being completely honest here. Like, I feel like, you know, if you're willing to go in and say, yeah, you know, I'm going to, you know, go into a pact with you, you know. Well, I'm glad. Thank you very much, Satanic Hymns, for that super chat. Greatly appreciate it. And, you know, I'm glad I was able to, you know, remind you to hold up your end of the bargain, you know. And I hope that, you know, by you holding up your end of the bargain, you know, you do get, you know, what you desire from it, you know. So yeah, most definitely, you know, that hits. Wait until you're sure. Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. You know, till discipline to actually follow through. Yeah, exactly. No, you need discipline in a pact. Like, pacts are not lighthearted, right? And like I said, I'm not trying to make it like sound like, you know, like they're childish or anything like that, but some of them, you know, like to fuck with you because they can, right? You know, and there's really there's no two ways around it, right? You know, so if your plan requires the spirit to do all the work, it's not a pact. It's entitlement with candles, right? And this is another thing that irritates me with fucking pacts, is because, you know, people talk about, you know, doing pacts and then like, oh, like they feel like they have like control over the demon. And I'm like, but do you? Really? Like, these motherfuckers will give you enough rope to hang yourself with. And another thing that irritates me with this, okay? So, and I have to say this. I have to say it ties in, but it is a little off topic, but it's important to mention here, right? So the concepts of high magic and low magic, right? So the way we define it, so a lot of people think high is in good, low is in bad, right? Because they talk about high vibrational energy, low vibrational energy, yada, all that new age bullshit. So the differential between high magic and low magic, first and foremost, high magic is gnosis, right? You work for knowledge. Okay, you're not inherently asking for something to happen in your life, right? You're not like, give me $1 million, right? Or, you know, like the joke that I always say, where it's like, you know, I'd really like to fuck that redhead with the eye patch and the peg leg down at the 7-Eleven, right? You know, you're not asking for, you know, mundane shit that is, you know, day to day, right? And so the way this breaks down with high magic and low magic, and why it's important when it comes into pacts, right? For everything sacred in the world, for like, please don't go into a pact because you want money, love, a job, right? Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I mean, it can be part of it. It can be part of it. But if that's your primary focus, don't do it. Don't do it. If your primary want, desire is low magic, don't go into a pact for it, right? Because that is also going to get you burned. You know, high magic is, you know, working with and showing respect to the entity for the intelligence and information that they hold of the universe around them, what they can give you archetypally, you know, through integration, individuation of your ritual work. And I'm gonna say the thing right now, guys. I fully believe that one of the reason why for so many people that practice only low magic and get low results is because they're not incorporating high magic. I think, again, me being a dedicant of Baphomet, maybe it's just that, but there is balance that is required in the magic that you are doing, right? Don't just practice low. Don't just practice high magic. You need to practice a balance, right? Spiritual and mundane. Make sure it works together. Make sure you're balancing shit out, okay? Please. Okay, it's extremely important, right? And so when you go into a pact is the highest form of high magic that you can go into, because you are binding yourself to this entity. I want you to understand this, right? You are binding yourself to something external from yourself, your own being, your own autonomy, right? Your own agency. You are binding yourself to something outside of you. And you are promising to do things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. Maybe you wouldn't normally have consistently. You wouldn't be consistently doing it. And so, yeah, it's one of those things, right? Balance out your high magic and your low magic. And I think I have found with me, like I do a lot of high magic. I do a lot of gnosis stuff. I do a lot of like, I want information type shit, right? Because I do hold the idea in my head that though I do incorporate my pantheon into everything I do every day, when I'm cleaning, when I'm sitting down here doing work, when I'm playing a fucking video game, right? Everything I do, to some level, to some degree, I incorporate my pantheon, whether consciously or subconsciously, right? But when it comes to ritual work, I make sure that the work, you know, I do. And I've actually got sigils and names from doing that. Which I've been meaning to make videos on, but I just haven't done it yet. Got about 10 sigils and 10 different names for like the only way I know how to describe them is like lower level demonics that are kind of peeking through. So no, I mean, I would call it the void. I think it's just you go into the black and then you come back with some shit. But with the high magic aspect, like I primarily focus on gnosis, understanding and learning. And one thing that I have found is that when you focus on high magic, when you focus on, you know, putting in the work to learn for your own development and understanding of the universe, the low magic stuff kind of just falls into place. Like stuff starts to happen that you don't even ask for. Like you can have an idea that like, oh, I need money. Like, what can I do for money? And then something pops up, right? Something just, I mean, quite literally falls into your fucking lap, right? You know, maybe it's from your advertising. Maybe like the right person just caught it at that time, you know, but it happens so often that I don't believe in coincidences, right? I believe that everything happens for a reason, right? Because shit like this happens too often for it to be coincidence, right? Now, for the next part, right? The process, the anatomy of a pact, right? So the preconditions, okay? So this is the preconditions of what you must have before you even think about terms. Capacity. Fucking capacity. Sleep, mental stability, baseline emotional regulation. Those three things are like, if you don't have that, if you're not sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night, don't, right? If you are in the middle of a mental crisis, don't, right? If you are not able to emotionally regulate properly, correctly, don't. Now, I mean, obviously, it's probably hard for some people. You know, I first ask them if they are willing to enter. That, I mean, that's a later. That is a step, but that's a later step, right? The first thing is to make sure that everything in your shit's leveled out to be able to do it. Because here's the thing: when you attach yourself to something external to yourself, right? You are adding extra weight onto your psyche. It is something that is going to be practically omnipresent in your life from that point forward, and can fucking break you if you don't have the capacity for it. It's like if any of you guys are gamers and you like Cyberpunk 2077, right? Right? What happens if, like, or if you guys have seen the anime, like the Edge Runner anime, right? What happens if you put too much hardware into your body if you don't have the capacity for it? You go cyber psycho, right? It's the same concept here, right? And yes, 100% Mothra, it can make you or break you. And so if you don't have the capacity to deal with that extra psychic and spiritual energy flowing through you on a constant, right?
it can overload your system, right? The second thing, consistency. A track record of daily practice, even small. Can you be consistent, right? Can you make a pact and uphold that consistency? Consistency is so important, right? It is not a meeting that you want to miss, right? It's like a court hearing, right? You got a subpoena, you got to show up at court, right? You don't show up at court, your ass gets arrested or you lose the case, right? It's that level of serious. Keep consistency, maintain the consistency, right? You need the consistency. Clarity. What do you want? Why do you want it? What are you willing to trade for it? Right? What would you refuse? Clarity. Be fucking clear on the terms. Be clear, right? And protection and closure discipline, right? Opening and closing cleanly. No sloppy endings, right? Historical grimoires obsess over this for a reason, right? The Ars Goetia, like all of these things, like all of these things that we've read, we love to read, we love to talk about, stuff like that. There is a reason why every fucking book that has ever existed, even fucking the satanic fucking Bible, talks about fucking circles and protections when going into ritual. And they believe it's just psychodrama. But even they talk about opening and closing circles. So there's a reason why every practitioner throughout history talks about proper, clean, clear opening and closings when doing ritual. When did I know that this was going to be my subject? This morning. Like, I mean, I thought about it probably like last week. I thought maybe I would do this, but this morning I was like 100% certain. But like this was going to be the topic for today. So there you go. You didn't have to delete that, man. It's all right. Yeah, questions are welcome. Sorry. Kind of phlegmy in the mornings. I think it's like all the dust in the air and stuff like that. The weather's starting to change here. Starting to get hotter. So yeah. So the protection and closure discipline, right? So opening and closing cleanly, right? So example of something that like is a bad ask in a pact. I want money fast. No. Like that's no. Better would be like increase monthly income by X within 90 days via legitimate opportunities, and I will complete Y devotional acts weekly plus Z offering schedule, right? That's a better structure, right? I still wouldn't suggest doing it for money, but because it's a simple example, that's a better way of putting a pact together. Because here's the other thing. A pact is a lifelong connection. Okay? It isn't, it is not for 6 months or 40 days, or it's for the rest of your life. You cannot make, there are people out there that will tell you that you can make a time-limited pact. They're full of shit. Okay? They're full of shit. And the reason they're full of shit is because, well, first and foremost, they just are. And second of all, it's like, trust me, bro, right? No, but I got the receipts for you, right? Pacts, especially like if you look at like the Ars Goetia, things like that, most historical grimoires, when they talk about pacts, do outline pacts as being lifelong. The goals inside of the pact change regularly, but a pact is lifelong. And when you go into that contract, right, don't go in thinking, oh, I have a 40-day pact. That's not a pact, right? You need to uphold that shit for the rest of your life. And I think trying to water it down and say like, oh yeah, you can put time limits on your pact. No, you can't, because that waters down the seriousness of it. How serious it is when you get into a pact. A pact is for the rest of your life. There's no getting out of it. So one, make sure it's an entity that you want to be in a fucking pact with, right? So the reason why for me, like, payment made sense is because I'm a creative, right? I like to create. I like to make things. So it makes sense for me to go into a pact with payment because I'm almost 40 as it is. And I want to be creating and making things for the rest of my life, right? So it makes sense to me to go into a pact with payment because that exchange is forever going to, you know, allow me to take advantage of that energy, right? With that back and forth. So also make sure that whatever you decide to go into a pact with isn't just something that you need a temporary fix for, but something that is going to be a lifelong, mutually beneficial relationship between the two of you, right? It's like getting fucking married, right? Essentially, like, think about it that way, right? You know, you're not going to marry somebody because they were a good one-night stand, right? There's a whole bunch of other fucking things you're going to look at before you decide to, like, you know, tie the knot with somebody. So the pact itself is for life. So your responsibility in a pact is to maintain for the rest of your life those offerings, right? Exactly. It will change your life permanently if it's done correctly. Which is why I have no pacts to speak of. Right? There's the one that I want to get into with payment, but payment consistently, like, each time I go in and I ask and I talk, like, and I request, like, is there anything else? It's like, no, it's Marigold. And that's like, fuck, man. Like, I mean, as long as I'm here in Mexico, I can't do that because I can't find it. Right? So, and trust me, I've looked on Amazon. I've looked, like, there's a couple of sellers in the States that, like, are willing to like ship out, but the shipping is just ridiculous. So no, I have no pacts to speak of, right? I have no pacts to speak of. But I've done enough research on these things before going in and asking, like, payment for a pact that I figured I do have some experience or enough experience to talk about them, right? And how I understand them. And there's a reason why I don't have any active pacts, because I know how serious these fucking things are. Marijuana. Should you tell anyone about your pact? I think that that's up to you and the relationship that you have with the entity that you're in a pact with. Because some pacts, some of the requirements of a pact are secrecy. So I would say that if it isn't a requirement in your pact that it stays secret, then I don't see that there's any harm in talking about it inherently. But, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know, if you're really interested in someone and you really like them, and then, you know, you get lucky with them and you sleep with them, and then you run around and telling the entire world every grimy detail of what happened that night, it's not going to be looked at fondly, is it? You know? It's not going to be appreciated. Exactly. I would limit it to that, right? Like, I would limit it to that. Like, you know, I would limit it to talking about it to people that you know that are going to fully understand it. And just leaving it at that. And particularly, like, if you have a partner, then just leave it at that. Is probably your safest bet, right? So, contact and discernment, right? So safe engagement principles here, okay? So verify identity through consistent signs, divination, repeated contact, and results that match the entity's known current and your agreement. Essentially, make sure that you're making a pact with what you want to make a pact with, right? No obsession loops, right? If you're spiraling, you pause. You don't double down because you're insecure. Okay? And it's also to say, like, within a pact, it's not to say that there aren't going to be moments where maybe you can't uphold your side of the bargain. And this is where my personal experience ends, and I'm basically parroting what I've heard. So there are some that say that you can't pause a pact, and if any break in the process can be damaging to you on many different levels. And then there are others that say that it's almost like going to your boss and asking for time off, right? Like, hey, I need a week off, you know, kind of thing. So I'm more inclined to say that any pause in it is going to be detrimental to the process and potentially to you psychologically and spiritually, simply because of the nature of these things. I don't think that working with the demonic, I don't look at the demonic as like, oh, they're very understanding individuals. You know, remember, it's an exchange, right? It's a back and forth, right? So if you guys see me clicking on stuff, it's because I am now need to start logging into work because I need to log in 4 minutes to work. So, you know, they appreciate it being more personal from my experience. Gotcha. So, you know, and I'm always gonna be open with you guys, right? Like, so this is a point where I can't tell you from my experience, you know, A or B, right? I can only tell you and parrot what I have read and seen, and that needs to be known, right? It needs to be known that this aspect of it is just my opinion from what I have read, not from my own experience, right? Thanks, appreciate it. Well, I'm not done yet. Like, you know, I'm logging to work. I can keep going. I just need to make sure that I'm logged in. Otherwise, you know, it causes problems. You know, so, whoa. That opened up a bunch of stuff that I wasn't expecting it to open. Update. Update your settings to continue seeing. Okay, continue. Allow. Yeah, everything went fucking haywire yesterday. I also noticed that, like, on my phone, like, all of my, like, passwords for my Wi-Fi's are just gone. Just crazy. I have no idea what the hell happened. I had to start digging them out of drawers. All right, there we go. Done. All right, there, I'm logged in. So moving forward, right? So with that, like I said, discernment is not paranoia. It's how adults avoid becoming entertainment. Okay? So practice discernment. Negotiation, next part, right? Scope. Scope is important. What is included and excluded? What are you willing to do? What are you not willing to do? Right? Timeline. Start date, right? Review points, right? And again, like, there's no end date. So this is the other thing, right? So with whatever it is that you're going into, each time that you go into it and you're practicing through your pact, right? There are review points. There are, you know, there's obviously a start date when the pact is starting, right? When you want to review things, and then, like, renewal aspects, right? Exactly. Worded exactly how you mean it, right? And renewal, like, it's going to sound stupid, but renewal clauses, right? So inside of this, because a lot of people make the mistake of asking for one thing, getting that thing, and then being stuck in agreement where they don't get really anything else out of it, but they have to keep giving. So renewal clauses is to say that, like, so for example, if I were to go into a pact with payment, it wouldn't be just one time, you know, assist me with my creativity, assist me with my ideas and stuff like that, but a constant back and forth that I will continue to do this. And, you know, when I need something, it'll come to me, right? So price, offerings, devotional work, vows of action, constraints you accept, any sacrifices or anything like that that might be requested in there, right? Because, you know, with talking to JS, I have no doubt in my mind that, you know, some of these entities may ask for, you know, certain things we might not be willing to do. And, you know, if you're not willing to do it, then don't jump into a pact with it, right? Boundaries, right? What the spirit may influence, dreams, opportunities, social field, right? And what is off limits, right? Health, family, coercion, harm, stuff like that, right? So these are all the things, like, these are like really specific things that need to be thought about. Like when you go into this, right? It's just like, I want this and here's a pact. No, right? You have to, all the same things that you would think of going into a job that should be on a contract are the same things that you're going to be going to with a pact, right? And then the proof standard, right? What success looks like in reality. That's an important thing, right? What does this look like for me? What is a successful pact and ritual? What does success in this look like to me? And can the entity perform that, right? The contract motif is culturally old in Europe, right? Theophilus legends, like pre-Faust and Faust traditions, right, frame the pact as written obligation and consequence, even if later art exaggerates it. Okay. Now, for me, your pact doesn't have to be written down. You can, right? You can do it completely in your head. I mean, I think, you know, writing it down for your own sake is kind of, might be helpful for you as the practitioner to remember what the hell it is that you agreed to. But, you know, we're talking about entities that do everything, you know, spiritually and energetically, right? Like, you don't really need to have a piece of paper with everything written out on it, right? If you don't want to. It's not going to, you know, change it either way, whether it's agreed to or not agreed to, right? It's more for your sake, so you remember what your responsibilities are and what it is that you're asking for, so it doesn't change over time. And so drafting the pact, what a functional pact document should include, right? So names, titles, used in ritual context, right? What you call them, what you call yourself, terms in plain language, duration and review points, offering schedule, boundaries. Some say that you can put exit conditions. I don't believe that you would be allowed to, but some do believe that you can, right? So that's just being honest. Pack 2, Pack 3, Pack 4. That's good. That's good. I have no idea why they didn't show up in the main chat over here, but I can see it on the screen. Right. So some people say you can have exit conditions. I don't think so. And then the witness method, right? So your altar record, journal, sworn statement, stuff like that. This is definitely something to go in your Book of Shadows. And I'm going to be honest. There's so many modern occultists that don't have a Book of Shadows. It blows my fucking mind, right? Like, I have so many, it's ridiculous. Should always have a Book of Shadows. Always keep a record of your work. Always keep a record of your work, right? Always record and results, right? Like, your Book of Shadows is your fucking grimoire, right? Like, I think most people are just kind of like ridiculous with it, where they think like that their Book of Shadows is just kind of like, you know, information that they want to remember. and easily reference, and it can include that. But a Book of Shadows, more than anything, is I fucking did this and this happened. Right? They're field notes. Like a Book of Shadows, you need to treat a Book of Shadows more like a field journal than, you know, anything else. Right? So dedication versus pact here, one more time, right? So, and it's a line that people refuse to respect. So a dedication is, you know, an identity level devotion, ongoing reverence, often lifelong, but not necessarily transactional, right? So a pact is negotiated, term-based, obligation-based, and measurable, right? And so the reason why this is important is because a dedication without maturity becomes dependency, and a pact without devotion becomes disrespect, right? So a dedication is who you bow with. A pact is who you pay, is what you pay with, right? Is the difference. And I think a lot of people get confused between dedication and pact. So many, if not all, pacts function as lifelong, even if they have phases, right? That's why you build review points, right? So no coercion, no harming others, no trying to escape accountability by outsourcing to a spirit. Exit clauses, again, like I'm mentioning this only because this is what I've read. Set conditions for pause, renegotiation, or termination. If your pact has no exit language, it's not, you know, it's basically to say it's not like, you know, hardcore. It's sloppy, right? Now, again, this isn't me saying that I believe that there are exit clauses. I don't think that there are, but many people do. But I think that, like, I don't know if this is to say that there are actually exit clauses, or it's just because people want to give people like an out because they're afraid, like, if they don't have an out, they won't do it, right? I have, like, honestly, hymns, I'm not going to be able to like answer that, like, respectfully, because I don't know what it is, the context of it, anything like that. So yeah, I'd have to get back to you on that one. To me, the song is just, you know, it just means a song, or the song, like, you know, for something specific, right? So my brain is very literal with these things, and that's not a dig on what it is that you're doing, right? So now the historical example frame, right? So which trial literature obsessed over the pact as the center of diabolic witchcraft that doesn't validate the courts, but it shows how pact language became a cultural container for fear, control, and contract with evil narratives. Knowing that history helps modern practitioners avoid reenacting Christian panic theater while still respecting spirits as real. Okay? So I think the biggest thing here, and the reason I did this episode, was because to me, there are too many people talking about pacts like it's a flex almost. Like, I have a pact with this and I have a pact with that. And I have a lot of people in the occult community talk about really stupid shit and use it as a flex. But a pact is not a flex. It is a vow with teeth that will bite you in the fucking ass. Right? So anyway, guys, that is going to conclude today's episode. I hope, you know, you got something out of it, and I hope it worked. It works for you, and you learned something, and it was helpful. So again, the book is live on Amazon. You can pick up the book on Amazon. If it bites you in the ass, why do it? Well, because the thing is like, anything and everything can bite you in the ass, man. It's just, it's a matter of what you do, right? Like, It's only going to bite you in the ass if you don't hold up your end. Right? Like trying to find anything in life, to do anything in life that is completely safe, it doesn't exist. So, damn. Him, thank you for, the $10 super chat. Greatly appreciate it. It's $15 total today. Thank you very much for that. Greatly appreciate it. And that's going to be it for me, guys. And as always, hail thy fucking self. I'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out.